So I'm here in the Galapagos and my barber messages me. His name's Vinny, and he says, Kris, help me out, buddy. I just got this $500,000 home under contract, and I had factored some of the money for a down payment, but now if I have a bigger down payment, that might bring down my rate a little bit more. And then I have this thing called closing costs, and there's like $15,000 of closing costs. Is there a way to get around that? And so I said, you know what I'm gonna do, Vinny? I've got very little Wi-Fi. I'm not gonna be able to message you back, but the moment I come back, I'm gonna release this YouTube video, and it's gonna be titled 5 Creative Methods for Your Down Payment. And as a bonus, I'm also gonna hit those pesky closing costs. And with that, let's get started.
One shot, now the future is yours. Go! I'm turning dreams into reality. Yeah, it's one shot, now the future is yours. Go!
Being here on the Galapagos on this private yacht, heading for a little bit of beach fun playtime is a far cry from my original pains in the game of real estate, where I had a hard time coming up with the down payment for some of my properties. And I gotta tell you, probably one of the biggest reasons why people do not get in the game of real estate is because how much money it takes to get involved. Think about it, a down payment for you to buy a primary residence can be 3 to 5%. So on a $400,000 home, what is that? Well, that can be $12,000, $15,000, $18,000, $20,000. Not a lot of people have that money. But on top of that, if you want to become a real estate investor, a 20% or a 25% down payment is even more standard. That can be $50,000 or $80,000 or even $100,000. How does anyone come up with money like that and be able to stay in the game to become a multimillionaire? Well, listen, I'm telling you that if Donald Trump can become a billionaire nearly overnight because he knows how to maneuver real estate very carefully, then in this video, I'm going to talk about how you can transact real estate with little to no money down at all. It's about being hyper creative. And in this video, I'm going to focus on 5 different forms of creativity. And creativity ultimately means, where do you get the money from? You might be thinking, it's got to come from my bank account. But in most situations, creativity does not require a bank or your account. Rather, it's about thinking differently about money. Oh my gosh, it is so beautiful out here. And I have to tell you, this video has been sponsored by real estate, as in learning how to invest it the right way. Think about it for just a minute. You buy a property, someone else lives in it. Someone else is paying you rent. That person is paying off your mortgage. But in the meantime, imagine if there's hundreds of dollars left over every month after paying all the expenses, the mortgage, right? Well, who gets that money? You do, you're the investor. On top of that, that property is gonna go up an average of 4.65%. Think about that for just a little bit. 4.65% for every $100,000 is $4,600. So if you have a $300,000 home, it's like every year the property is going up $15,000 a year in value on top of that cash flow. And then the cash flow, the thousands that you're getting every single year, you're not even paying taxes on, because that property, the government allows you to depreciate it, basically write it off so aggressively that that cash flow is basically tax-free, with leftover money to count against your normal income. I mean, real estate is just smart at the end of the day. But I have to tell you, it's kind of a nerve-wracking game when you're new to it, because it's like, where do I get the money to be able to put my down payment? Because if I don't have that, I can't get in the game, right, Kris? Listen carefully. It took me $5,000 for me to buy my first 25 properties because of the kind of creativity that I'm going to be sharing with you in this very video, which means you may not need as much money as you think. And you might be watching this video because you're thinking, well, Kris, I just need some creative ideas for how I get a down payment for the house that I'm going to buy for me. Today, I'm going to give you more than that. I'm going to show you 5 different ways of doing that, but I'm also hoping to spark something inside you that says, wait a second, you're telling me, Kris, that if I buy this piece of property the right way, that I can leverage it into buying more property, and that in time, all of that property can allow me to do the way 90% of all millionaires make their money in the first place, winning through the game of real estate? Absolutely. In 2021, the National Association of Realtors examined purchase prices in the US, and they basically took a report on the average down payment, and they said that it was around 12%. Now remember, there are some people buying a home for themselves that are putting down more than the minimum, which is 3 to 5%. Why would they do that? Well, they're trying to lower their payment. So maybe they received a gift, maybe their mom and dad are pitching in, giving them some money. Maybe they've just saved up extra long and hard. Maybe they emptied out one of their 401ks because they needed to bring down the purchase price. But as a result, they're putting down an average of 12%, and they reported that that's around $35,000 to $40,000 in order to buy a home. Now, like I said, that's a tremendous amount of money. 3%, however, is all day long the kind of programs that you're going to see out there for first-time home buyers. By the way, if you're buying a home for you, you get the first home buyer exemption. If you're doing conventional financing, they're going to make it a minimum of 5%. If you're buying it as an investment, which means non-owner occupied, I will not occupy the premise, then it's going to be 20% down. And there are even some loan programs that will help you get a much more attractive rate if you even put 25% down. So we're talking about a lot of money here, hence today's video on creativity. Let me share with you my story on how a small amount of money bought me so many properties, and that's going to give you the first of several ideas on how you can finance creatively that down payment. I did not have great mentorship when I got in the game of real estate because my mentors were thinking far more conventionally. And so for me, I remember them saying, well, Kris, you need to probably save up $3,000 to $5,000 so that you can have a 3% down payment. And remember, I was living in a part of the world in Utah as a college kid where I was hoping to buy a condo or a really cheap home. And so all I knew was $5,000 in the bank. And that was such a large amount of money for me that it took me 14 months to save it up. So the first of the 5 methods is just to save up cash. Now, this is the least of the creative, but I want to tell you what I did with it. You see, I had $5,000 sitting in the bank, and I found this sweet deal for $110,000. The house was worth around $150,000, $140,000, and today that same home is worth $250,000 on up. So this was entry-level bungalow. The sweet part about this home is that it had a basement apartment, and so it was really hard to buy this. I went with my $5,000 to 3 different banks. I got turned down by 2 of the 3 banks. One bank that I had been with already for years, and I was getting discouraged because I was running out of my 30, 40-day period of time to actually buy this thing. And I remember a bank finally squeezed me in and said, sure. Well, at $110,000, that 3% down payment was around $3,300. Now, $3,300 is what I brought to the bank that day when I signed on the papers. Totally nervous, totally skeptical, didn't have the knowledge and wisdom, didn't have $1 billion worth of real estate behind me the way that I do. But the reason why it wasn't more is one of my first hacks. When I negotiated the house, I negotiated for the seller to pay the closing costs. And closing costs can be often between 1.5% and 2% of the property. So in this case, it was a couple $1,000. And so in the contract, because I had the person selling the home pay those closing costs, all I had to do was bump up my fee to the amount that I knew my closing costs would be. It wasn't going to cost them any more money because I raised the price a little bit, and it meant that we could have them contribute that money towards my closing costs. The bank accepted that, and that meant that I only needed $3,300 out of pocket instead of maybe $5,000, $6,000, or $7,000 that I actually didn't have. So even if you're going cash, understand that once you've negotiated a price with the seller, you can always go back to them, and once you know your specific closing costs, let's say you knew it was $8,000, you could say, hey, actually I want to pay $8,000 more for the house, but have an addendum that my realtor will drop that says that you're going to contribute $8,000 to closing costs. All of a sudden, that's $8,000 you don't need to come out of pocket. It's now being financed in the mortgage that you're getting. And truth be told, it didn't come out of your pocket. Good hack. Psst, that first little hack was for you, Vinny, my barber. All right, the second hack that I have for you on getting creative on how you come up with that down payment is actually Google and the state that you live in. And what you're gonna Google is down payment assistance and the state that you live in. Check it out. Many state or local governments have down payment assistance plans. Provided you qualify, you could receive an outright grant or a low or no interest loan to cover your down payment. And some even cover closing costs. Tell you what, I've helped a lot of people over the years get in the game of investing because of the help that they got on a down payment assistance program on getting a primary residence. Meaning, even though they wanted to become an investor and they wanted to own lots of property, The easiest hack was to house hack, meaning put that 3 to 5% down payment. Maybe the government or some state program will even pay some, if not all of it. And all of a sudden, you're controlling a piece of property with somebody else's money. And you know what? You've got to get that first one down and in your pocket before you can get creative and then figure out, all right, now I need to buy a house that I'm not going to live in. How do I do that one? Well, that is hack number 3. How did I get that second property? I mean, this time I needed more money out of pocket, and who was going to give it to me? I certainly didn't have it in my bank. I actually had it in a bank account of bricks in my first property that I had bought 12 months earlier. I want you to think about this for just a second. That house that I had bought $40,000 below market, that next year went up another 10, so I had $50,000 of equity. I went back to the bank and I basically, they said, well, Kris, based on all that equity, we can give you a home equity line of credit, a HELOC, home equity line of credit. And I said, well, what is that? There's like, we'll give you some of the equity that you have in your house, and it's like on a credit card. You can spend it however you want to spend it. I said, could I use it to buy another property? And they said, we don't care what you do with it. And so I remember when I got my next home under contract and I went to go buy it, it needed money. And how I got that money was basically writing a check out of my equity for my first property, and that first property supplied the money I needed for my second property. Now here's why this was cool. That second property, I did a lease option with it. A family moved in and gave me a $3,000 down payment. And on top of that, there was like a $600 a month positive cash flow. And this is my amazing wife right over here. I'm gonna pull you into this. And I just want to ask you real quick, when we bought that first property, and we lived in it for a year, and then we used the HELOC to buy our second property, how did you feel about that extra $600 a month of positive cash flow that came off that home?
I loved it. Back then it was so much. $600 extra was so much.
And what did you do with it?
Paid down debt.
Yeah, we got ourselves out of debt.
Yeah,
and
saved.
I remember it was the third month, I believe, of owning that property that you came to me and said, what?
Let's do it again.
Let's do it again. And this is when I knew I had her support. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to hack and hack and hack and hack. I'm going to grow and grow. I'm going to go and go. And back then we decided, hey, if we could make $500 of positive cash flow on each one of these properties, we decided our goal. Do you remember how much a month we wanted back then when we were poor, starving college kids?
Yeah, it was $10,000 a month.
Woo! $10,000 a month. And so we did the math. We knew we needed 20 properties. And so Glenn was basically saying, Kris, get those 20 properties. If each one has $500 a month positive cash flow, that would then give us permission for me to quit my what?
Job.
Yep. And by the way, you were excited about that. Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Because more time together?
Yeah. So, I mean, we got married 20 years ago. We've got our 4 niños that are playing out over here on the beach. We're having a blast. And this amazing life that we're living, when I say it's been brought to us by real estate, that's where we created our first original wealth. That first hack of that first down payment that became 25 properties built a net worth of $1.6 million for us. And that was before it turned into tens of millions of dollars and then went above and beyond. And so the advice in this video, do you think they should be listening?
Listen.
Do you think they should be taking notes?
Absolutely.
Let's go. Okay, the fourth hack for coming up with the down payment or not needing one in the first place is to buy a property with owner financing. Owner financing means that there's someone that already owns the home and they're willing to be the bank, and they don't operate like a bank. They may not require down payments or anything like that. Owner financing is a transaction in which a property's seller finances the purchase directly with the person or entity buying it, either in whole or in part. By eliminating the bank, you can pretty much make the deal whatever you want it to look like, which can also mean a smaller or zero down payment. I remember after I had bought like my first 10 investment properties, I had a mentor that was showing me some different strategies, and one of them was seller financing. He owned this property and he didn't want to manage it anymore, and he was happy with the money he had gotten out of it. And so he said, Kris, why don't I finance this for you? And I says, well, how do I do that? He says, you don't need a down payment. Literally just start making the payment for it. It needs a little bit of renovation. I don't want to come up with the money out of pocket. Why don't you just take it over, finish some of the repair, get it rented out? Well, that property made a perfect lease option. And I basically made it, this is a little hack. It was a rent to own for a family, and it had a separate dwelling. That separate dwelling made for a second stream of income. And that made for the family that moved in there able to pay a much higher than average rent. And so my partner and I bought this home, and it needed about $10,000 worth of work, which is what motivated the person to give it to us. I didn't need to come up with the down payment. And then years later, when I sold that home, we made like $60,000 or $70,000 on it. It was so cool. Anytime I have a chance to do a property with seller financing, meaning whoever owns that property, but I can get them to be the bank and not do a down payment, even if they charge me a higher interest rate up front, I just have to figure out what it will take for that to be a win for them. Let me show you how practical this is. 2 to 3% of all homes that are for sale on the market are usually for sale by a motivated seller. That means this is a person that has a problem, and the problem is called the property, and they don't want it anymore. They're not just selling it because their family moved out of state, or they took a different job, or they're downsizing. They got a property that they don't want. So let's go with the example of inheritance. It could have been they got a divorce. It could have been a number of things. But let's just say that someone died and left the family their home, and they're like, geez, what do we want to do with this thing? And so maybe they try to rent it for a while. Maybe they have it listed as a for sale by owner. You could go to them and just say, hey, why don't I come in and take care of this property for you? Let me get it rented. How much money do you need for rent every month? Because what they want is a professional to come in and reliably cover the payments. And a business that is doing it as a business is going to be far more reliable to them in their terms and in their eyes than just a renter. Like the renter could literally abscond next month and skip payment, and what are they going to lose? Like the little bit they had to come up with. So the bottom line is there's homes that are out there in the market, and if you look for them and if you find them, seller financing or owner financing is a way to basically work with the person who owns the home instead of a bank. And often there's a way to buy property without any down payment whatsoever. It's sure strange making a video for you about real estate on an island that has none, or I should at least say no properties, right? And right now, literally, it's just starting to rain. It's been the most amazing trip. Like real estate, the reason why I'm such a fan of it is because it has financed my wife and I, our trips all over the world. It's allowed us to see what an amazing planet that we live on. And part of that is due to a singular strategy in real estate that I'm going to share with you right now as my fifth hack. And it's called Lease Option. Lease Option is rent to own. It's a form of seller financing. This is where you could literally go through homes that are for rent and basically call up the people trying to rent them and say, hey, I would actually like to buy your home. Can I rent it for the next 5, 7, 10 years and then eventually buy it? And if they say yes, then all of a sudden that person is agreeing to seller financing, and you may not even need a down payment. It's one where you basically go to them and say, well, let's fix the rent that you want to collect every single month. And they agree to that, and you might be solving a problem for them where they're like, shoot, we wanted to sell this in 5 or 7 years, anyway. Now we've got a guy who's going to rent it. You just need to make sure that your contract allows for subletting. Because if that's the case, then after you've tied up the agreement with how much you're going to buy it from them for, you're also going to agree up front to the monthly payment. Now you can put a different family in the home, and you can say, I'm going to do a rent to own with you. I want you to actually be the one who buys the home. Often they'll give you a $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 or higher $1,000 down payment. Yes, so like $3,000, $10,000, could even be $15,000 or $20,000. And now they're going to cover that payment, and there can be positive cash flow in that. Now you're controlling a piece of real estate. You never used a bank. There was never a down payment. And one of my courses, my most popular course on lease options, the first book I ever wrote, The Strait Path to Real Estate Wealth, is all about this strategy. This is a fantastic way to control real estate. And with that, I want to kind of teach you this little nuance. People think that it's about owning stuff. Do you see this boat all the way in the horizon out here? The one on the left? That yacht is not inexpensive to rent for a week. It's, this whole trip is around $100,000. Someone owns that multi-million-dollar boat. But I'm telling you right now, I don't like to own things. I like to control things. I make money controlling things, not owning things. So with the lease option strategy I just gave you, technically someone else on paper will own that in the eyes of whatever bank that holds their title. But you can do the paperwork the proper way, and who cares about owning it? The money is made by people that control it. Just like the person that controls that yacht out there, they're making money off of me renting it this week. So in my world, what do I really own? My goal is to own as little as possible. I own my home, I own cars, my trusts own everything else. And every time I have a chance to buy a boat or a house or a cabin or a yacht or whatever, guess what? I'm not into it. I only put my money in things that make me money so that I can take that money and rent these things whenever I want. I got way more money in the bank. I've got way less debts. I've got way less things to worry about. And I have all the options that are available on this planet for my taking. So I'm gonna tell you right now that this 5th strategy, lease option, it is real. And it in of itself is actually how I more or less did my first 25 properties. It built all of my original wealth. Now listen, I know today I told you that I was gonna give you 5 different ways to creatively finance a down payment. The truth is I'm gonna throw in a 6th one. It's a bonus. It is one of my favorite ways, and it's called partnering. Especially if you're watching this video because you're curious how to become a better, more robust real estate investor. Whether you're new or whether you're seasoned, today's video should be giving you tons of ideas, but let me give you my best idea of all. After I bought my first several properties, I was hooked. And because I had my wife's support, I wanted to buy a whole lot more. The only thing stopping me was having more money. And at that time, my father-in-law, her father, basically came into the picture and said, hey, I know that I've expressed so much disinterest in what you're doing with real estate. I've been confused. I haven't understood it. I now see that you're doing it as a way of making money and that it's an investment. Show me your numbers. What are you doing? And after he saw the numbers and we calculated the ROI, my ROIs were so off the chart that he said, hey, let me use some of my 401k, some of the equity in my home, some of my savings. Let's start building a portfolio together. That was 50 homes ago. He put up the money. I did all of the investing work, and between the two of us, we bought home after home after home after home. It has been so lucrative. It's been such an amazing decision, and it taught me how to partner with people. And so literally even today, someone like you might be following me on YouTube and say, I have a 401k, I have equity in my home, I have some savings. Kris Krohn, are you saying that you are available potentially for partnership? Where your team, you will do all the work and I put up the money and we can partner and make millions of dollars potentially together? That's exactly what I'm saying. And that same strategy you can do with someone else. I'm gonna tell you right now that once you find a good enough deal, the money is always out there. Never allow your bank account to tell you what you can or can't do, because the reality is if it's a good deal, there's money for it. Well, for my friend Vinny, my barber out there, buddy, I hope this gave you the information you're looking for. And for you, I hope it showed you all the different ways of playing the real estate game and all the creativity that is out there for winning. By the way, if you do have money sitting out there in a 401k, in an IRA, in equity in a home, realize that inflation is eating a lot of that alive, and yet real estate, my track record is in knowing how to invest with 25% annual ROIs on up to over 100% on some of the deals that I've done over the last couple of years. It is such an amazing time to be in the game of real estate, and everyone should have the most FOMO on the planet. They should have so much fear of missing out on such an amazing real estate landscape. Meanwhile, people think the sky is falling. They're worried about the recession. They're worried about inflation, and they don't get it. This is how millionaires get made at an accelerated rate in the game of real estate. 2008, when that great recession hit, I did something that nobody was. Everyone said real estate is evil, run from it. I spent 5 years buying thousands of homes, and within 5 years, my investors made over $100 million. And I'm telling you right now, we have a similar climate upon us right now. If you want to win in the game of real estate and you've got some money that can be used for down payment, I want you to click the link below, and I want you to learn about partnering with me. You know, think about that. What if a 401k, instead of doing so little for your retirement, could build into millions of dollars over the next 1 or 2 decades? What if your IRA could do that? What if the equity in your home could do that? I'm gonna tell you right now, friend, that right there could be a game changer. Now, with or without me, get in the game of real estate either way. I just might be, if you've been watching me for some time here, I might just be your lowest common denominator. I might be your easiest way of getting in the game. In the least, it's worth looking at my track record because I publish it every year, and I'll show you the addresses on my last several thousand homes, the performance, the ROIs, and the money that we're making. And once you see it, you'll probably realize that there's very little that competes with it. So with that, click the link, learn about partnering with me. And with that, I'm gonna get back to my family and having some fun.
I'm gonna bite your leg!
You will not bite my leg. Did I get here with Galapagos sharks? With some hammerheads? You guys are thanks. Hey, thanks for watching today's video. Internet thinks you're gonna wanna watch this video next. And with that, I'll see you there.